just so honored to be with normal American. I mean, it's Washington, D.C., these globalists who want to indoctrinate our children, they want to remove our moral foundation from the next generation. They want to make a generation that's completely reliant on the government. When I'm around them in Washington, D.C., I literally feel like we're at battle at all times. And it's not just against flesh and blood up there. You can feel the tension in that city. So when I get to come down to Orlando and see real Americans who care about this country, it does my heart so good. So thank you for that. But I wanted to really get to talk about what's going on in our nation. And I think what's happening is they're trying to destroy our nuclear family. They're trying to destroy what's made America great for so long, and that's our moral foundation, the fact that we were founded on Judeo-Christian values, and that we live in a nation that we can all be proud of. And when, I'm excited to be a dad. I just got married. Everything's going great in my life. Yes, thank you. And because of that, I'm starting to think about having children. My wife and I are having that conversation. Is it going to be 2 years, 3 years? When is it going to be? And something about that just makes me feel completed as a man and as a soon-to-be father one day. I feel like there's something primal within us that makes us want to raise children and rear them as we're called to do in the Bible. To be fruitful and multiply. But when I think about raising my children, obviously I want to provide for them. I want to give them shelter. I want to give them protection. I want to give them sustenance. But when I start to think about this child, I obviously want it to be very successful. And so I want my child to learn to be independent. And so because of that, I'm going to let my child push the boundaries every now and then. Maybe he's reaching for a limb. I know it's just a little too far, and he might experience what it's like to fall out of a tree, or he's going to take a tumble on a playground that hurts him just a little bit. I know in that fact that he will learn what failure is. But, when my child starts to experience this extreme difficulty and realizes that he's in pain, what's it going to do? What's my little Throckmorton going to do? He's going to cry out. And as a father, I'm going to want to come to his aid and fix all those problems for him and put him back in a safe, sheltered area. That's the role of a father. It's the role of a mother. But my friends, that is not the role of our government. Our government right now is trying to buy votes in their desperate scramble to have nothing but complete power. They are trying to do this by, they're promising Medicare for all. They're promising free things just left and right. And they're promising to forgive student loans. Now, the problem I have with this is that it's intellectually dishonest. They're trying to think that Americans are too common, are too naive to know that in the end, we're the ones that have to foot the bill. In the end, it is the next generation, my generation, that will have to foot the bill for this debt and pay these taxes because people wanted to give away free tuition, because people wanted to try and buy votes. But I believe that in this country, we should push back on that. We as Americans must realize that our number one guiding principle is personal responsibility. We have to realize that what happens in our country when the government comes and tries to come to our aid and raise us up, if you have a government that is strong enough to fix all of your problems and heal all of your woes, then my friends, you have a government that is also strong enough to one day take away all of your liberties. And as conservatives, it is our mandate to limit that power of government, to make sure that our liberties stay intact. Because my friends, let me tell you, when I look at what's going on in this country, when I see that they are trying to silence us, they are trying to take away our rights to be able to defend ourselves, they're trying to make us become dependent on the government, they're trying to have indoctrination camps of schools, and the way they're trying to make us dependent on the government is through trying to say they want to get rid of all our student loans. But at the end of the day, what's going to happen is people who didn't even go to college, young men and women who became welders or linemen on power lines or HVAC repairmen, or people who've already paid off their student loans, now have to go and take care of the fiscal irresponsibility of another person. So I realize, in my mind, I believe that we all must take note that they do not want us to be responsible. They don't want us to take responsibility for the direction that our country is going in. Because my friends, the direction our country is going in, we all know is very dangerous. We are walking down a road that is very near socialism. They are trying to turn this country into a communist ash heap. And my friends, if we do not all start taking personal responsibility for our lives, if we all do not start saying, as this next generation of young conservatives coming up, saying that, you know, it's not enough, we're not just going to take on the status quo, we're not just going to sit here and say, oh, well, you know, I'll just patiently wait for my time to come to go make a difference in Washington or in my state government. My friends, if we do that, if we sit on the sidelines, we will not have a country to inherit. If we do not get involved and say that it is our duty to make sure that our country is responsible, that our country doesn't take away our liberties.
And so I'm here to ask you for help. I need you to help me save America. And that is literally what's happening right now. When I first got elected to Congress, I knew that when I walked into the House of Representatives, which is where I got elected as a farmer and a rancher to represent South Dakota, I knew after discussions with many members that I was serving with people who believed in socialist principles, who believed in Marxist principles. They would have never said it publicly. And look at how dramatically that has changed today. Look at how dramatically they have embraced those policies. They give press conferences on it. So I'm here just to have a candid conversation with all of you about what is at stake. I look at Joe Biden's America and I don't recognize the country that I grew up in. I do not recognize the country that I grew up in. We see crime and hate. We see division, lawlessness. It's completely unacceptable. And I need all of you to join the team and to do more than what you're doing. You're doing a lot just by being here and embracing conservative principles. But I need you engaged to do more. I grew up in a world where people were proud to have jobs. They got up every morning and wanted to go to work. We prayed in school when I went to school. We looked at birth certificates and never had a debate over what the person's sex was. We just didn't. We respected our flag, we protected it, and we all stood for the national anthem. And that's not the country that we're giving to little Miss Addie today. You know, I was thinking about how special it was where I grew up. Everybody knows I grew up on a farm and ranch. I had the most incredible parents in the world. They were not perfect, and they were tough. My mom, I think, spent most of her life just trying to keep us alive so we could keep up with Dad, because my dad was a go-getter. He was the kind of guy that woke us up every morning by yelling up the stairs, "Get up, more people die in bed than anywhere else." And so we got up, and I always used to, and then he would send us to bed and he would say, "Sleep fast." And I remember being like a 10-year-old going, how do I sleep fast? I don't know what that means, but he was a cowboy, and he was incredibly tough, but he taught us life lessons that made us problem solvers. He gave us impossible things to do. And I was thinking the other day about this one story, if you'll just indulge me for a minute, but it was when my brother and I were real young. It was during calving season. You're gonna get a real good farm story here. Sorry, Billy's gonna love it. I don't know if anybody else will. It's during calving season, and cows, when they have babies, get fevers. They don't feel very good. I mean, how many women in the room know it's a little rough to give birth? Well, cows get fevers and they don't feel good, and they don't like their calves. And we had a cow that wasn't letting her calf suck, and Dad sent me and my brother Rob over to get her in the barn, put her in a chute, and make sure that that baby could suck, could drink. And so we went over there, and with my dad, failure was not an option. It had rained that day. He was working in the shop. Go make that calf suck. So we went to the barn, and as soon as we got in the corral with her, she took after us and literally wanted to end our lives. Chased us right back up over the fence. So Rob and I looked at each other, and we tried to divide her attention. I opened the barn door. He got her to chase him. We tried to get her to chase him into the barn. We tried everything. Went back over to the shop and said to Dad, we can't get her in the barn. She's too mean. She just wants to kill us. And he said, you get back to that barn right now and you make that calf suck. So we drug our butts back over to the barn and went in there, and time again, that cow put us back up over the fence. Finally, we walked back over to the shop, and heads hanging, disappointed. I think I was probably 13 years old. Rob was, 4 years younger than me, and said, we can't do it, Dad. And he was mad. So he was going to have to stop what he was doing and go back and help us get this cow in the barn. It was wet and muddy, so he took his cowboy boots and he had these rubber overshoes. I don't know, you guys remember rubber overshoes? Pulled them up over his boots, walked across the yard, didn't even take the time to buckle them, climbed over the corral fence, got into the pen with this cow, and she immediately put her head down and went 100 miles an hour straight for him. She got right to him, and Rob and I are watching from the fence. He puts her in a headlock. He's got her in a headlock, and they're going round and around the corral, and he's got her in a headlock, and he's going, "You stupid cow, get in the barn, we gotta," and we're just watching all this, and all of a sudden, he goes down, and this cow kneels on his chest and starts rubbing him in the dirt. And we think he's gonna die. And so we jump off the fence, we run up to her, we distract her, get her off of him. He gets up, he comes back to the fence, we're all sitting up on the fence, he brushes himself off and he says, "I had her right where I wanted her until I tripped on my overshoes." And we're like, "Sure you did. Sure you did. Had her right where you wanted her." But listen, it made me think of America today, because President Trump had America right where we wanted her. Right where we wanted her. And boy, have we tripped on our overshoes. Joe Biden has made us fall flat on our face. It is unbelievable to me, and we need to pick ourselves up and fix the damage that he's doing. There are two things in this country that will destroy us faster than anything else. And the first one is the Marxist indoctrination that they are teaching our children in our schools. That will destroy this country. I was the very first candidate in this entire country to sign on to the 1776 pledge. Dr. Ben Carson and I took on this challenge, recognizing that we needed to teach our kids true, honest history. That the 1619 Project, critical race theory, is hate, division, and it's not American. It's offensive. We do not have racism in our DNA in this country. We love each other, and everybody deserves to be treated equally.
They named me Time Magazine Person of the Year, right? Now, this year I lost to Greta. Greta. I lost to Greta. I said, who? I'm not going to get involved in that, because last time I got in a little trouble. But I lost to Greta. But doesn't matter. I've won it, enough. I mean, in all fairness, when the whole world evolves around this person, I don't say good, bad, but you turn on that stupid CNN, you turn on MSDNC, you turn on Fox, every story is Trump or Trump related, right? If a plane goes down with 700 people on it, they don't even cover it anymore. That used to be a big event. They don't cover it anymore. It's really unfair. But it's been, by the way, have we all had a great time, though? This journey, right? This journey has been amazing. I tell the story. A month before I ran, I said to my wife, well, I'm thinking about it. Said to a couple, I'm thinking about it. Didn't think too much about it. I thought about it like a day before I ran. But I remember seeing the New York Times. It came to my office. I held it up. It was like a thing you hand out at a grocery store. It would have blown away with a little wind, about 2 miles an hour. It would have blown away. That was the New York Times. Now it's a vibrant paper. But when I'm no longer here in 5 years, or 9 years, or 13 years, or 17 years, 21, 25. No, they actually think I'm not leaving, This crazy Bill Maher. Bill Maher, you ever hear this guy? He says, he's not leaving. He has a guest, some guest, that didn't have a clue. And the guest, he said, Trump is going to win. You know that, don't you? He's going to win. He's going to win, don't you? Like it's devastated. Bill Maher. It's a nut job. He's going to win. And the guest says, no, we're going to fight very hard. We think we have a good chance. No. He's going to win. And then, you know what? He's never leaving, don't you? He's never leaving. No, he's never leaving. No, he's got it work. He will never leave. There's no way. And I used to think he was kidding. He's not. He is a total nut job, this guy. But under my administration, the great betrayal of America is over. It is no longer for sale. Last month, we ended the NAFTA catastrophe, and I signed the brand new U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement into law. Great job. The USMCA is a gigantic victory for farmers, ranchers, manufacturers, and workers all across our country. And by the way, speaking of farmers, something they don't know, but they're learning fast, no more estate tax on your small farms, small businesses, small other things. No more estate tax. People don't talk about it. It's a big thing, big provision. Big provision. If you love your children, it's great. If you don't love your children, it's irrelevant. Don't leave the money to them. But, you know, in years gone by, great farmers, they have a good land, good everything, but they don't make that much cash. It's a tough business, right? And the banks would come in, loan money to the children, and the banks would end up owning the property, and all hell was going on. It was terrible. No more estate tax, or as we call it, death tax. No more on small farms and small businesses. Great thing. Nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about that, but it's a big thing. If you love your children. If you don't, does anybody here not love your children? Raise your hand, please. Look at that, not one hand. Well, that's conservative people. They all love their children. Right? Now, there's one hand in the back. I'm not calling.